the NPD Group just released its sales findings for June 2018 today, and I wanted to make this video and talk about all the things that I found pretty interesting in it. And I know you guys want to know, hey, Rand, just tell me, who won? Who sold the most consoles? Was it PlayStation, Xbox, or Nintendo? And what game was number one? And we're going to get into all that right now. What's going on, guys? Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with another video. Now keep in mind, the NPD Group only covers North America, because I get this comments all the time about worldwide stuff. So this is only talking about North American sales. It doesn't talk about Europe or Japan or anywhere else. Keep that in mind, North America only. Now there were some things that I wanted to see in June 2018. I wanted to see how well State of Decay 2 was going to hold up. You guys recall last month, it actually surprised a lot of people by winning NPD. So I wanted to see, was it going to have great legs? Was it going to retain and still place in the top 10? Or was it going to fall off the charts like Sea of Thieves did before it? I also wanted to see how well God of War was going to hold up. It's one of the best-selling games of the year. It's my current favorite game of the year. And Sony's been pretty loud about how well it's outperforming their expectations. And in the UK, I think that game was just #1 for the last month. So I wanted to see if that was translating over to NPD. And you know, on the hardware front, it's not as interesting as the software. PlayStation is kind of consistently won every single month, as it's the most popular console out there. You know, outside of the Switch winning in January, it's kind of been a foregone conclusion. However, there was a really big surprise, as the PlayStation wasn't the best-selling console of the month, and I guarantee you cannot guess which console was #1. But let's get into all the great information, shall we? Total numbers for June, 1 billion, which is up 25% from 2017. Hardware is up 52%. Console software is down 1%. And accessories are up 38%. The takeaway, if you follow Matt Piscatella, if you read these articles, if you kind of get the sense from what's going on from people in the know in the industry, is that the industry is extremely healthy right now. All three consoles are doing very well, even though some people don't want to believe that the Xbox is actually doing pretty good. But you know, there's a quote here about that we'll get into. Now software is pretty interesting, because Mario Tennis Aces, which came out on June 22nd, was the best-selling game of the month. Now, best-selling, of course, not unit-wise, because NPD actually ranks everything here by revenue, so it actually made the most money. But it is #1, and it doesn't include digital, so it makes it even more impressive. And I know, you know, here's a myth I'm going to debunk, because every time I make these videos, and I make them every month, people are like, oh, Rand, it doesn't include digital, or it does include digital. Now listen, it includes digital for certain companies: Microsoft, Sony, EA, Activision, but you know, those companies, right? And they're usually marked here. You know, you have a star here next to Mario Tennis Aces and Legend of Zelda, and it means no digital sales included, and 2 means no PC digital sales included. The ones that aren't giving their digital info are Nintendo and Bethesda, and I think Blizzard. It says right here, these numbers exclude digital sales from storefronts such as Blizzard's Battle.net, as those publishers don't release that information. And Nintendo doesn't release it, so the fact that Mario Tennis Aces is #1 in revenue without including digital is a pretty huge feat, and it's a tennis game, for Christ's sake, and it's #1. So, I mean, I didn't think it would be #1, and yet here it is. And then we see here, God of War maintaining that #2 spot. It was #2 last month when State of Decay won, and it's #2 again. It was #1 obviously when it came out in April, so it is maintaining that momentum. It's a single player game in a sea of, like, you know, games as a service, multiplayer stuff, and it is selling incredibly well. And there is some debate about what's going to sell better, you know, God of War or Spider-Man, and maybe I'll make a video about that down the road. But of course you have Grand Theft Auto 5, The Crew 2, which also launched this month, Far Cry, Mario Kart 8, Lego Incredibles, which launched alongside the movie on, I believe, June 15th, FIFA, Crash Bandicoot, back on the chart at #9, as it just released on the Nintendo Switch and the Xbox One, Detroit Become Human, which is a PlayStation exclusive that launched back in May at the end of the month, was #3 in May and drops down to number 10, so it held pretty well. 11 Mario Odyssey, 12 Legend of Zelda. You notice a lot of Switch exclusives and quite a lot of PlayStation exclusives in the top 15. Rainbow Six Siege, NBA, Call of Duty, MLB The Show, Assassin's Creed Origins, Vampire, which was also a new game released during the month, Donkey Kong, and State of Decay 2. So there we go. One of the things I wanted to see was how well State of Decay 2 was going to hold, and well, it didn't hold very well. It was number 1 back in May, and for June, it was number 20, barely even in the charts. And you know what? It follows in the footsteps of Sea of Thieves. Sea of Thieves, when it came out in March, was the number 2 overall game. And then as soon as, the next month came, it was nowhere to be seen. And it looks like State of Decay 2 is going to follow. And I don't know if that has anything to do with Xbox Game Pass, as you can get that game for really cheap there, or if the reviews were starting to kick in as, the game originally came out and it has a fan base, as State of Decay 1 sold incredibly well back on XBLA, that the reviews weren't a factor initially, and there was a lot of hype around it. A lot of people were playing it with Game Pass, getting their friends to, buy the game or whatever. And, since the new month switches over, maybe the reviews kind of reared their ugly head, so to speak, and less people were willing to get it. I don't really know, but it's interesting to see that, you have God of War maintaining number 2 for basically 2 months in a row. You have Detroit, which came out the same day, or not the same day, the same month, and a few days apart, holding better at number 10. Of course, this is all based on revenue. Detroit Become Human is $60. State of Decay 2 is $30. So it's interesting to see all this stuff. I'm really impressed by the performance of God of War. Just remain at number 2 and sell as much as it's sold. It's a really impressive feat. Nice to see Crash come back, releasing on a couple new platforms, and it's Grand Theft Auto 5 being here. Geez, I mean, this game came out in 2013 and it's still always in the top 5. Crew 2, I don't really know if this is a good position for them. This is like a sequel to a game that I don't know if a lot of people were asking for, and Far Cry 5 continues to do pretty well. But let's see what actually Matt Piscatella has to say about it. He said Mario Tennis Ace debuted on June 22nd, and it instantly set a record for Nintendo's best-selling tennis game in terms of first month sales. It climbed to number 1, so I guess that's the best tennis game ever for a Nintendo. He goes on to say Nintendo Switch was the only platform that produced software sales growth in June, and year-to-date software sales on Nintendo Switch are almost more than double those of a year ago. I mean, the Switch is a huge win for Nintendo. It's selling, on par with the PlayStation. When you kind of launch a line, them people are loving it, and it's selling a lot of software that isn't Nintendo games. A lot of third parties are finally getting involved. A lot of indies do incredibly well on that platform, and yeah, I've taken a huge L. I didn't think the Nintendo Switch was gonna do very good. I thought it was gonna be a failure like the Wii U, and I was completely and utterly wrong, which I'm glad about, because, I don't want anything to be a failure. I want everybody to do extremely well in the industry, and when one company does well, everybody benefits from it. So it's nice to see Nintendo catch lightning in a bottle twice. They did it with the Wii, which is a system I didn't really particularly enjoy, and now they did it again with the Nintendo Switch, and I think a lot has to do with the portability factor of it. I underestimated how much the portability factor would come into play, about the idea of playing all these games on your TV, but then taking it on the go, and that's a huge selling point for the Switch. They also go on to Lego Incredibles. Launch sales were second only to 2016's Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens, which is, they release a lot of Lego games, so it's still kind of a big franchise. God of War continues its reign at the top of the charts, which we talked about, sitting at number 2 of June, as well as the top of 2018 top games overall. And we have the list here of the individual games and how they charted on Xbox One and PlayStation. And for once, they actually look kind of different. God of War is number 1 on PlayStation, followed by Detroit, which is number 2. But on Xbox, The Crew 2 sold the most, followed by Grand Theft Auto 5. State of Decay 2 was number 4. PUBG was number 5. FIFA 18 here, FIFA 18 there. Rainbow Six Siege here, but not on this list. Vampire, number 8 on PlayStation, but not anywhere in the top 10 here. Lego Incredibles almost in the same spot. Crash Bandicoot here, but not here, obviously, because this, Crash Bandicoot came out a year before on the PlayStation 4. Nintendo Switch list. And then they get into the best-selling games of 2018 so far. Far Cry 5 is number 1, and God of War is number 2, and it might stay that way until Spider-Man comes out, or maybe Call of Duty, Red Dead Redemption. But this is your top 10 games so far that have released in 2018. Mario Kart 8 is number 7. Super Mario Odyssey is number 10. That's, for a game that came out last year. Call of Duty, same thing last year. Grand Theft Auto, 6th best-selling game of 2018. Game came out in 2013. You'll notice, there's a couple PlayStation exclusives. Well, one in particular, a couple, Nintendo exclusives, but no Xbox exclusives. And these are the best-selling games over the last 12 months. So keep in mind, this would be from like August, or from June of last year to June of this year. And look, God of War actually made it to number 10. That's pretty impressive considering it's the, the sales of the last 12 months for God of War to be on this list. And Far Cry 5 sitting right here. Like, Far Cry 5 just sold more copies than Star Wars Battlefront 2, which came out last year, and Assassin's Creed Origins. So Far Cry 5 is doing huge work, and it probably eventually will pass up Super Mario Odyssey and maybe even Madden. Who knows? That Far Cry 5 and God of War are definitely one of the biggest, software sales spots of this year. Now we get into hardware, and Sony's PlayStation 4 was the best-selling console and remains the top platform year to date, but Microsoft and Nintendo also saw their sales increase. Now, a lot of people will tell you that the Xbox platform sucks, that the Xbox One X isn't doing anything for the system because it's not winning any NPDs, which it hasn't, that it's a complete failure, but once again, right here, year over year, the Xbox One made almost twice what it did last year, and the Switch sold more than 50%. So when you actually stop listening to fanboys and their, agenda and their anti-rhetoric about Xbox and actually listen to people who, have the data, you'll find out that this year for Xbox is going to be one of, if not the best year for the brand ever. Well, not ever for Xbox One, better than 2013 and beyond. So, maybe you should think twice before listening to people that say the Xbox One X didn't do anything and it's not selling because it's not winning NPDs and things like that. But just the data is all that really matters. However, the PlayStation 4 wasn't the best-selling console. It was actually the Nintendo Entertainment System Mini that released, and it actually sold the most. But of course, PlayStation sold the most if you go into consoles that sold over $99. And that's pretty much it for NPD for June 2018. I make these videos every single month because sales are important at the end of the day. It's interesting to see the trends that are going on, and it's kind of a little bit disappointing that we don't see Fortnite chart on any of these things because it's a free-to-play game, and I do wonder how much effect Fortnite has on all this different stuff. Matt says that it contributes greatly to everything, so with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Give it a thumbs up if you did. Let me know what you think about all this stuff in the comments below. Hit that sub button if you're new to the channel. You know how all this stuff goes. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it. And I'll see everybody in the next video. Later, guys.